Hello adventurers, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are in Duncan, Oklahoma, and we are checking out the Chisholm Trail Heritage Center. Now I'm really excited about this one because whenever I found this one, whenever I was doing like a little Google search, it had some really cool looking stuff inside, and it's a beautiful day out here. So this is located right along some of the heritage trails, which they have 3.2 miles of trail system here in Duncan that are fully paved. So this is a great place to come not only to the museum, but also to take a nice little casual walk along some of the Chisholm Trail. So let's get started right here with a little information. The Chisholm Trail ran between 1867 and 1875, and here you can find what they're calling the end of the trail. This is a beautiful bronze that has the Abilene and Ellsworth, Kansas, both located on this. In fact, approximately 4,500,000 cattle followed Jesse Chisholm's wagon tracks and were shipped to these towns between one and the other. And here we have a nice depiction of that to start us off at this amazing museum. But you could also take a walk along where the trail might have gone, and as you go it shows you the riverways and the state lines and also some of the communities that you would have passed through on this trail. This is pretty exceptional, and it just keeps going and going and going, and well, you see that over there? That's where it ends. We haven't even made it inside and there's already all sorts of brain wrinkles, and this is very cool. So the one we were at was the end of the trail, but the beginning of the trail is way over here next to something that, well, I'm just gonna have to show you what it looks like. This thing is amazing and really has me geeked out about what's gonna be inside in a minute. This right here is called On the Chisholm Trail, and it's a tribute to the American cowboy who drove millions of Longhorn cattle out of Texas to the destination of Kansas. Like I said over there, this actually takes us to the beginning of the trail, which started off in South Texas. And here you can learn a little bit more about the King Ranch and how it contributed to this part of the trail. So this is pretty neat. And again, it just takes you right on along where you can see what the path would have looked like. And right there, sure enough, there's the King Ranch. Okay guys, we're gonna kick this off by going through a short introduction to the art gallery. Now this is a collection that's valued over $3 million and has tons of really cool things. This was the largest art collection between Fort Worth and Oklahoma City at one point. So inside the Garris collection we go. This is going to be super fun. Now this was a private collection, and the Garris family actually is from the Duncan area. So whenever Mr. Garris passed away, they wanted to share this collection with us. And so people come here from all around the world to see this beautiful exhibit. And I'm just going to kind of walk you through a few of these things, and then we'll get to the meat and potatoes of the museum itself. But wow. Now, as we were walking through the gallery, we found this, and it's actually a stop that talks a little bit more about the Choctaw Code Talkers also. They were also known as telephone warriors. And here you can find information about the Code Talkers and some of the code that they used, but also bios of some of the individuals. And so as you're reading through these, you can get to know who some of them were, and then some of their thoughts, what happened to them, if they were commended for their service, things like that. But thought it was just a wonderful way to get to know some of the indigenous people here in Oklahoma right next to this beautiful painting. And here are a few of the things that they might have been able to use within their code. You'll notice that they have a soldier or a warrior, and then they would have the Oklahoma pronunciation. And so therefore, that would be the code that was used. They also have things like grenade, artillery, ration, attack, casualty. All of these had code words, which were derived from the native words that were already being used by many of the tribes. Now, according to this, after they came into play and started using this special code, within 72 hours, the war pivoted, and the Germans couldn't break the code and figure out what they were saying. And so the United States then had the upper hand when it came to battle. And so these these men were so imperative to the war efforts during World War I, but some of them went on to continue their service even into World War II. And so it's kind of fascinating to read a little bit more about this. But again, this is just one gallery in a very large museum. So I'm going to show you the next portion as we dive into the Chisholm Trail.
Forms a sea of grazing cattle. For the cowboys, bedding down means time for eating, smoking, and yarning. Truth is, for many of these solitary
Okay guys, we just came into this experience theater and it is so neat. This has got to be one of the more interesting ways that I have seen them like share the video for a museum. It like has wind whenever there's wind on the screen. At some point they actually had rain whenever it was raining. You can feel the thunder whenever it thunders because your chair moves. It is crazy and it's really cool looking in here. Just in general, like check this out, there's tons of seating and then it's like literally this experience, so you're like enveloped by the story. It's really neat, but this is only one of the experiences, and so I definitely encourage you guys to come and check this out. But we're about to find out something else, so we have to go out here and meet our guide, and then he's going to set us up on our path for our next experience. I'm very excited about this.
No slicker in pouring down rain. Swear by God that'll never ride again. Come tie ya, yuppie yuppie yay, yuppie yay. Come tie ya, yuppie yuppie yay.
Oh, damn, instead of pulling your sorry old tooth. Okay.
At my trading post, a few miles yonder.
Huh. Well, enjoy your coffee then. It ain't often we cattle drivers get a visitor out here on the trail.
Yeah, it gets lonely, that's the truth. I've been traveling this trail for years, trading with the Indians. Lately, though, I've seen more and more of you fellers and those Longhorn cattle.
Okay guys, we just went into the Campfire Theater, and the Campfire Theater has these two animatronics which are fabulous, and I definitely enjoyed how they kind of talked between the two of them to tell the story. It's a shorter thing, but at the same time super interactive and super fun because you get to actually see movement as though it's a actual person talking to you, which is really neat. But now it's time for us to roam around and see what else we can explore, and I'm very much so optimistic because everything that I see looks really fun, and there's an entire interactive section, and well, you guys know that I like to get brain wrinkles while getting hands on, so let's go.
You're making all the decisions now. I'll be around to let you know how you're doing.
Okay, on the other side over there, Dad is being the trail boss, but I'm also going to be a trail boss. So this is an interactive station. It's a touch screen, so we're going to walk through a series of different prompts and find out if we would be a good trail boss. And I think this is a good way to start it off because one of the things that we've learned from Stop to Stop is that each group would be pushing through their head of cattle, and there would be different people assigned to different jobs. Now the trail boss was the one who was in charge, and so they were not only responsible for the cattle that they were moving, but also setting up the team of people. Now typically, also just kind of a little heads up, if you were new, you were at the back of the pack. You had the grunt job, so you were in the opposite direction of the trail boss. And from what I've seen in a lot of places, you didn't want to make his bad list, because even if you weren't new, that could be an option for you also if you did. So good times. But we're going to check this out and see if I would make a good trail boss. I'm hoping I can take all the brain wrinkles that I've learned from across the country and do good with them, but we'll see. Okay, touching the screen. And it all begins here.
Howdy, friend. Name's Luke. I've taken cattle north 3 times, 2 of them as a trail boss. I'd say that makes me a veteran, though others might just say it makes me crazy. Today, you get to be the trail boss. You got 2,000 Longhorns, 12 men, and 60 horses. Your goal? Get as many fat steers to Abilene as you can and sell them for the best possible price. You're making all the decisions now.
No pressure.
I'll be around to let you know how you're doing. At the end of the trail, I'll tell you whether the drive ended up in success or failure. Now saddle up. Get ready for an adventure.
Okay, we can do this. We can do this.
Now in Texas, the trees are budding and the flowers are poking up through the grass. Feels like spring. But you've heard of snow up north in Oklahoma. What you gonna do? Set out now and don't waste time, or wait a couple of weeks?
Ooh, we should probably wait if there's snow, don't you think?
Ain't no harm in waiting just a bit. A few drives got out ahead, but they'll be stuck in that Oklahoma blizzard. Better a few days late with a full herd.
We made a good choice, guys. I'm gonna finish this up and then I'll let you know how it
Now it's time
goes.
to cross a river.
Look at that, guys.
Think you can handle another drive?
We are now a veteran trail boss. We only lost a dozen or so cattle. That's not terrible apparently when we had 2,000, so yay. That was kind of cool. They ask you a series of questions and based on your decisions, you get to be a trail boss veteran if you pass the test. But that's only one of the many exhibits here. So I'm going to show you guys a few other things and then we're going to make a brand over here and I'm going to see if I can make a bunny brand. I don't know if that's possible based on what they have, but we're going to try. Starting off, there's a place that we can touch. Oh, this shows us the trail itself and it lights it up. And you can see it going all the way up to Abilene, Kansas, and it passes through Fort Worth, which I don't know if you guys checked out my stockyards video, but we just were in the Fort Worth stockyards and it mentioned how the Chisholm Trail ran through this area. And in doing so, it actually was a hub for the cattle industry. So really, really cool. But then on the other side of this, there are some of the other trails that were super popular. And one of the things that we learned was that the Chisholm Trail was actually frequented by Mr. Chisholm. But he mentioned that he had found this whenever he was doing some trade with the Native Americans. And he just took it because he'd already seen that there was a path there. So it was named after him most famously, but other people were using it before. But here we have the Goodnight Loving Trail. We also have the Western Trail and the Shawnee Trail, and each one of these were significant in the movement of cattle. Okay, it's time, guys. We're gonna brand something. It says humans have always used some method of labeling for their property, and branding has been used for over 4,000 years. And now we're going to have these little pads here where we can create a series of designs to make our own brand. Now my question is, what do these look like? Okay, so this one kind of looks like a hook or a J. This one is more like a C. Okay, let's see, what's this one? This one's more like an I. And this one is also kind of like a smaller I. So how am I gonna do this? Okay guys, I'm gonna try to do this. Wish me luck. Hey guys, I did it, kind of. So I used the C twice and then the long I and then the short I's. So this is my brand. This is the Bunny Bee. It looks like Dad has found the chuck wagon and this
What
is
you
interactive
doing
also.
snooping in my chuck wagon? Here's where I keep the gear and the grub that feeds my outfit. The best thing is how much food it carries. Mostly beans, bacon, and flour. Some of the boys don't care for the menu, but you won't hear them complaining. You get what you get out here, and you'd better like it.
So I've noticed that this talks in a variety of different ways, and there's like this pull me, so we're gonna pull it.
We work up an appetite on the trail,
And then it
I'm
starts
hungry enough to
talking.
eat a saddle blanket. Tonight we're having son of a gun stew, which has everything in it except horns, hides, and hooves. Sometimes we even get steak. I still can't wait for some cafe food though. No disrespecting Cookie, but beef and beans gets mighty old after a month or two.
But also it has these little signs kind of around so you can learn a little bit more about the chuck wagon and the experience of being a cowboy out on the trails. And so this is really cool. I really like that there's several of these that you can kind of touch in different places, but then also you can kind of see what the food might have looked like. And well, guys, it leaves something to be desired, that's for sure. You can also go into the Duncan store, which is the general merchandise store. Dad's right over here, so we're about to go check that out and see what's inside. But before we do, we learned a little bit more about the Duncan store, which was established in the mid 1870s at the point where the Chisholm Trail crossed the Fort Sill Military Road. And the city of Duncan really began with this store. So it tells you a little bit more about its owner. He actually hailed from Scotland and he had an indigenous wife. And the store was prosperous and it was considered to be a trading post, and it provided basics to all the people. So as we go inside, we're going to see what some of those things might have looked like, and then also be able to interact even more in here. This is amazing. Lift me.
Get your hands to them crackers.
Oh, it talks. And then you can actually come behind the counter here also, and in doing so you could kind of see what it would be like to be in the store. This is the cash drawer, of course. Lots of cash in here. Dollar bills, y'all. Look at this. So you could actually come in and purchase certain items and kind of set up shop like a real store. And this is great. This is so great. Oh, these are neat. Dad just found a different kind of pull me. These actually have little pieces of information. This one says, often the merchants who ran such stores were the town's most popular and indispensable residents. Also, it mentions that every store had a potbelly stove and an open cracker barrel and a rough circle of chains with a never-ending supply of games of checkers. That's right, checkers was huge in these general stores, so that's pretty neat. Now it also says that the trips to the store would allow the women to be around other women, and that was much needed, especially out here in some of the prairie areas, because they just didn't have as much interaction for the women as they did for the men. So this is where they would come and they would be able to like hang out a little bit and chat with one another and catch up on the gossip and everything else. And so that's pretty neat. But there's some other things in here, so I'm just going to show you some of the stuff that's in here, and then we'll move on to the outside and see what's next. Well, that was pretty neat. And now we're going out to an area where you can actually take some pictures with some pretty interesting things. Let me show you.
Ain't no help on the trail but what you brought with you. A few 100 pounds of bacon and beans.
We was the onlyest colored cavalry troop in the war. And the outlaws and the Comancheros.
So back here, each of these little color sections is a different individual, and you can click on the button and it has an actual actor acting out their part of who they are, what they do, things like that. And it tells you from a first-hand perspective a little bit more about their job, and then also them as a person, which is really neat. But also there is this right here, which we're about to look at. This is a big did you know, and it talks about all of the different things that we would want to know about a Texas Longhorn specifically. In fact, a Texas Longhorn cattle is a descendant from a Longhorn Spanish breed that was brought to North America by Christopher Columbus. And from here we get to learn a little more information through the facts. For example, cattle horns are hollow, and hornless cattle are safer to handle and are less likely to injure other cattle or humans. So these are just a few of the facts. I'll leave some of these for you also, but this is neat. But on the other side of this, also something really cool. How old am I? Based on the size of the horns and also the teeth teeth, you're able to tell how old they are. So here you can find that this one is approximately 5 years old. And so just to kind of reference, my hand, just right here up next to this, it's many of my hand long. Now the smallest one is this one right here, which is 3 years old. It's right in the middle, and you can see the difference between 3 and 5, and you can definitely tell there's a bit of a difference there. But then we have the teeth. And so it has each one of these you can open up and see, and you can determine how old they are based on how large the teeth are. And it's pretty neat to see, and also kind of strange to get this particular perspective. And then on here in a ghosting, you can see it a little bit better in the light. This one says it's 6 years old. So pretty neat to be able to compare. This one is 12 years old for reference. Now Dad has come out to the Romancing the Trail section, which looks kind of like a 50s style aesthetic, but it actually has trail drive movies and what might have been at the cinema. So you can see a variety of different things along this and be able to click through the numbers. There are 10 different options, so that's pretty neat. But we're going to check out a couple of these and then move over to this section in just a moment. They in this case have some Hollywood movie prop pistols, and in here also they have some of the original movies and then the movie posters for some of the things that have been highlighted here in Oklahoma or along the Chisholm Trail. And then up here at the very top you have Gene Autry with his record The Yellow Rose of Texas, and also look right here, we have the soundtrack for Oklahoma. That's pretty cool. They also have some of the original Chisholm Trail songs, so you can find those listed here, and then again, click different ones. These are all Gene Autry, Roy Rogers, and other cowboys singing these. Now in this section there's a little bit more information about what they're calling the early cattle queens, and here you have some of the women of the trails, including a few familiar names that we've seen at some of the other museums that we've been to, but potentially one of the more interesting ones that we haven't seen as much about is Molly Goodnight, and of course that was associated with the Goodnight Trail that we just talked about a while ago. And I'll get into detail on her sometime in the future because I have something planned with this one. In addition, there's a little bit of information about diversity on the Chisholm Trail, which if you do go to the Fort Worth Stockyards, they talk a little bit more about these particular 3 sections, the Vaquero, the Black Cowboy, and the Native Americans, and how that they played such a huge part in this trail specifically. But basically, long story short, most of the people who would be on the trails would in fact be Black or Vaquero whenever they first started out, or younger people from the ages of 13 or 14 they would start out. And so you would find many of the people that you would see along the trail falling into this category. Now when we first came in, they introduced us to this, and you can see it a little bit better whenever you come to this side. These are all of the different animals that might have been in Oklahoma at the time of the Chisholm Trail. And there are a few in here that people might not consider as much now in more modern Oklahoma. For example, the badgers or the beavers and things like that, because they're not in all areas. But it also talks a little bit more in this section about these animals through a display right over here. Along this panel right here, you can find out a bit more about each of the animals that might have been along the Chisholm Trail, but also you can find out a little bit more about what purpose that they would have served, and then also what they look like today. And so I'm going to stop here at the jackrabbit. It says jackrabbits average 2 feet long. They included a 3 to 4 inch stub tail and weighed 7 to 10 pounds. And they have the ability to leap 10 feet at a time as they travel at speeds up to 40 miles per hour. We love a good jackrabbit. Here also they have an area where you can hear what some of them sound like and also pet the pelts. And so you can find out what they feel like, which is great because in all reality, we're not supposed to get close to most of these wild animals. And so this gives us an opportunity to see a little bit more about them from a safe distance. Now, believe it or not, if you're looking at all of these animals, which one do you think is the most dangerous to the average cowboy? Are you looking around? Do you think it's the fox, or the wolf, or even the bear. Well, you're wrong. It's actually this guy right here. This guy who's wearing a cute little cowboy hat. He is the culprit for so many bad things, and it's because of holes like this. So basically, the reason why he was such a bad guy is because he would dig these massive holes. It's a little prairie dog, so that's where he lives. But when you have a cow or a horse that's coming through and they step in this hole, it could break their leg, it could force them to roll over, it could be very problematic, and in some worst case scenarios, a cowboy on top of a horse would then plummet over and be smothered by his own horse as a result of this guy right here. Of course, we're not going to hold that against him because he's super, super cute. I would have definitely picked the snake because they're terrible and scary, and when I watch Lonesome Dove, they like engulfed a guy. But no, nay, I say it is the humble prairie dog, and that was super surprising. And you never know what you're going to find out when you come to a museum, so that is a brain wrinkle I will take with me everywhere going forward. But with that said, we're going to go and check out the gift shop really quickly, and then I'm going to cap everything off as we move outside. Okay guys, we picked up some adventure materials for a future adventure, and guess what that means? We started off at the end of the Chisholm Trail, we walked down to the beginning, and then we went inside and learned about all the points in between. This was a great stop here in Duncan, and I'm so happy that I found this and was able to share it with you guys. The state-of-the-art theater experience, as well as the animatronics, is worth coming out by itself, but then there's also all the interactive areas. So definitely encourage you guys to stop off here in Duncan, Oklahoma, and check out this, the Chisholm Trail Heritage Center. It is a fabulous experience, and it was only $6 for a regular adult, but they do have senior discounts and children's pricing also. So with that said, guys, remember, we're not here for a long time, but we are here for a good time, and today was definitely that. Some new brain wrinkles in our head, some more information to tie together the pieces, and we're off to our next adventure. Till next time, guys, bye!